Proteins and amino acids. Proteins are complex macromolecules that contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. It's also usually made up of 300 or more amino acids. Usually it's 20 for protein construction and 8 essential ones. Proteins also have nutritional and functional roles. One is structure, another is nutrition, another is oxygen transport, and another is building and maintenance. An example of nutrition would be casein in milk, an example of oxygen transport would be hemoglobin, an example of structure would be myosin, and an example of building and maintenance would be enzymes. Proteins can be classified as biological functions, tertiary structure, and composition and solubility. For biological functions, you have storage, you have transport, enzymes, contractile, protective, allergens, toxins, and hormones. An example of hormones would be insulin. Toxins would be C. botulism or snake venom. Allergens would be eggs, milk, peanuts, or soybeans. Protective would be antibodies. Contractile would be actin or myosin in meat. Transport would be hemoglobin or oxygen. And storage would be casein in milk. The next classification, which is tertiary structure, can be broken down into fibrous or globular. Fibrous includes fibrin, myosin, elastin, collagen, and keratin. Globulus includes albumin and globulin. An example of fibrous would be collagen, which is drawn in a similar structure like this. And a global structure would be something like this. And this would be an example of myosin and meat. The next subcategory is composition and solubility, which could be the 7 simple proteins, which are only amino acids, and the 5 conjugated proteins, which is a prosthetic group plus a protein. There are 3 that's soluble in water and 4 that are insoluble in water. The 3 soluble in water are histones, albumin, and protamines. The 4 that are insoluble in water include globulins, glutamins, proteinins, and scleroproteins. Globulins are soluble in neutral salts. Glutamins are soluble in dilute acids with a pH of 2 or base with a pH of 12. And proteins are soluble in 50 to 90% ethanol. The 5 conjugated proteins include glycoproteins, which is carb plus protein. Lipoproteins, which is a lipid plus a protein. Then you have nucleoproteins, which is nucleic acid plus protein. And you also have phosphoproteins, which includes a phosphate group plus an ester protein. And the last, you have chromoproteins, which is a prosthetic group with a color prosthetic group with a protein. Next, I will discuss amino acids. Amino acids are monomer units of proteins. The most commonly found amino acid is alpha L amino acid. Alpha is the position of N in relation to the carboxyl group. L is asymmetric configuration in relation to L-glyceride. Glyceraldehyde, sorry. All naturally occurring amino acids and proteins are of L configuration. Here is an example of an L configuration glyceraldehyde. You have CHO, CH2, OH, H, and OH. And then you have an L amino acid, which is COO, NH3, H, and R. The characteristics and requirements of amino acids are that they exist as dipolar ions in a solid state and in solution's physiological pH of about 7. Amphoteric means that it acts as an acid or base. Zwitterion means that it has the ability to react with self to form inner salt. Most amino acids are isoelectric pH lies around neutrality or neutral pH. Pi means it's isoelectric point, which means that the net charge is equal to 0. The pKa is the point in the titration curve that equates to either an equal concentration of a salt and base or salt and acid. Both Pi and pKa can be titrated. However, Pi can be estimated by calculation. There are 3 classes, and they depend on the nature of the R group. The first would be nonpolar and hydrophobic. An example of that would be alanine, which you could draw with a C in the middle, carbon in the middle, COO minus, H, NH3, and CH3. That's an alanine, and that's an example of a nonpolar hydrophobic. Another example of a polar or uncharged, which is the next class, would be glycine. Glycine is COO minus, C, H, NH3. And this, instead of the CH3 like we have in alanine, we have just an H. That's glycine. The third category is polar and positively or negatively charged. An example of that would be lysine. You have COO minus. Same thing that you began with in your other amino acids. Then you have CH2, 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 CH2. And then you have another NH3, the charges. And that is a summary of what are proteins, what are amino acids, the characteristics, requirements, and that's it.